Hello and welcome. You're listening to the audio presentation of She Came From Nowhere, the novelization of a 13-book series. It is the story of a secret agent from a multiversal government agency discovering the location of God and taking action to kill her. The series covers the war between gods and mortals who create and destroy themselves and their worlds. The novels are written and performed by Caleb Morazi. If you would like to support the creation of this series and add input of your own, swing by patreon.com/shecamefromnowhere to become a secret agent. You'll get access to the entire novel, new series chapters as they become available, and audio from each. Link in the description. And now, enjoy Chapter 6, Hellworlds. 1. Sebastian trips on the dry earth, Kaplan saving him from plummeting into a chasm. Connie rips the metal arms off a rival gang member, beating her to death with it, and laughing with a frenzied joy at the revenge she's getting for the pain she's endured. She didn't have anything personal against anyone from KTM. She just recently made friends and lost friends in the war for control, and her heart had to go somewhere. She wanted to turn the tide by dominating each faction and breaking them all out. She knew it only took the power of one to do it, but her gang laughed at her. In a world known for brutality, Connie became even more brutal. She wanted even the guards to fear her, to know she was a force to be reckoned with. At every opportunity, she exacted her revenge. Unlike them, she wasn't here to take prisoners. Their time of brutal mercy was coming to an end, and she was going to totally free them. While hoping one day to be as cool as Dr. Ryan, the auto trips again, eating dirt. 2. Benario Sura calls the meeting to order in the House of Kamatosho's boardroom. The Jovan family heads all gathered. We may have gone too far in our quest for fame. The matron nods to Candel, who stands, his gloved hand bringing footage up on the nearby wall. We've been infiltrated by agencies from several nearby universes who are looking to gain control of the Kwai Mono technology. All attempts have failed. I want to act quickly, Benario says. We must utilize the device for protection. We've discovered an exploit in its users' bonds. They have a telepathic connection that allows us to imprint suggestions and commands, hijacking the user's will. The Jovan smiles. You're going to support me because I'm influencing you. The House of Kamatosho is going to rule the interdimensional League of Planets. It's not enough for us to be stranded on Ahael, fighting each other for dominance. There are many other planets for us to market to and control, many worlds and currencies. The device gives us the power to rise to the top and stay there indefinitely. We're the ones on the hunt, Kendall says. We're the ones who are infiltrating them, not with subterfuge, but by giving them something they want. He holds his Furbtech up, and the other Jovans at the table do the same. We are one, he shouts. In the footage, creatures from many worlds stand together and shout in unison, "We are one!" Benario smiles, knowing that even though it had just begun, it's already over. 3. Triton and Ever follow the Tanuki spirits between worlds. Souls gather there from across the multiverse. Many try to entice them into the mist, but Ever sees through them. We'll never find my brother by looking for him directly, Triton speaks into Ever's mind. He's too good at hiding. But if we can track down the thing he's obsessed with, the creative core of all universes, he will come to us. He won't be able to help himself. The Tanuki introduced the pair to the spirit of an octopus with a chicken head before disappearing back into the mist. I want first watch when we get out, Ever says. You don't trust us? The chicken octopus asks, speaking into the man's mind. Ever shakes his head. If I fell asleep around you, it'll be with one eye open. They arrive in a beautiful mountain village overlooking a large metropolis. What certain wants is there, Triton says quietly, using his words. Thank you for your assistance, he says to their guide. If there's any way we can return the favor. A living chicken octopus crawls out of a nearby hut, offering a small locket to Ever, speaking into their minds. Take this with you when you go. It'll bring you luck. 4. Connie thought she'd seen every kind of evil under Sparrow, but she was in no way prepared for what she was currently experiencing. In New Trenton, there was only one being trying to tear them apart, and yet Sarah, everyone did it, and they just got rebuilt. Captain Sparrow's guards monitored violence in the prison metropolis and then broadcast it into paying worlds. The most violent gangs got better upgrades and weapons. The leader of her gang, Ehrlich, was undefeated and wanted to win this season too. Sebastian was able to smooth talk the guards at the city gates who were A, dumb, and B, more interested in keeping their wards in than they were in keeping people out. The other told them he and Kaplan were huge fans of the show and came to meet their favorite competitors. The guards shrugged and told them not to get themselves killed. Fans everywhere were anxious to see a new device an underdog gang had acquired. Ehrlich told Connie and the rest of the robo-thugs that they had nothing to worry about. He'd been the toughest in the city since he was a cub, and he would destroy it. Kaplan and Sebastian were accosted on their first night by a small gang trying to make a name for themselves. The aliens' self-designed force suits caused them to flee. They dropped a small, furry device as they ran. "That shouldn't be here," he said. Laughing, Ehrlich explained as he dodged laser fire how nothing could steal his victory. They wanted weapons from their rivals. They held nothing but owl-like hamsters. "Be careful with those, they're dangerous," the otter says, and Kaplan smiles. "I know. I evolved the Ferb tech. Tough little guys. Had to regrow a couple of fingers they bit off. I didn't think they'd ever be put to use, but here we are. I don't know what the KTM plans to do with these guys, but I want them. If it's a weapon, we're going to use it to our advantage." It wasn't the type of weapon Connie expected, but nothing here made sense to her. Before Kaplan can stop him, Sebastian pulls out his particle weapon, reducing the creature to a puddle of goo. "Those things are dangerous, and we don't have time for distractions," he says sternly to Kaplan, shock-faced. "This is a simple get in, get out with our recruit. I know firsthand what they're capable of, and I see your look." Back in the hideout, Ehrlich watches his gang warily as they cuddle the devices. Captain Sparrow watches the development on his monitor, radioing to his superiors. "Robo-thugs have taken bait, adjusting betting odds accordingly. Exciting new season." When Connie holds the creature, she feels less alone, like she was part of something bigger than herself. Never in her entire life had she felt that way, not with Gertie or anyone. Instead of being an outsider, the creature made her feel like she belonged. 5. Ever laughs, crawling through the sewers with Triton in traditional Jelvin robes. "It's not the way I wanted to get into the city, but since we have no other choice." "Every other species got in," Triton says. "Illic aren't known enough to be disliked. Maybe they met your brother and are trying to stop what he did from repeating. If so, they're about to realize I don't give up easily. They show force, I show force. A force field blocks the tunnel. Touching it will kill you," Triton warns. Ever fiddles with the control panel until the force field powers off. "Got it," he says. "I'm the only one to survive the collapse of my universe," he continues, the smell increasing. "I'm not going to let something as simple as a basic water filter take me out." "It won't happen," Triton agrees. "If something kills us, it's going to be worthwhile." They climb the walls of the tube toward the city above, crawling out into an alley. "I want to locate my daughter's doppelganger as soon as possible. She'll fix everything." The pair emerge from the shadows into the main thoroughfare and find creatures of all types holding owl-like hamsters in the air, chanting, "We are one." "There are fates worse than death," Ever says, and everyone turns to them. A cyborg from Trenton Branswink offers them a Ferb tech. "We want you to leave your empty existence of isolation and join our tribe of like-minded peoples." Ever smacks the owl-like hamster out of the cyborg's hand, stomping it with a horrific crunch. "I know a cohesion field when I see one, buddy, and I'm not interested." While holding the little creatures, it becomes clear to Connie and the rest of Ehrlich's gang that it doesn't make sense to fight each other. Their real enemies were the Neaths. Ehrlich lays out his plan to the others, enticing them to revolution. No one could see that his plan was downright suicidal. The city was completely fortified, the guards huge and well armed, but they didn't care. They would go to their deaths if he asked. 6. A skeleton called Valeska approached Ellen after the fires died down. "I want peace for our people," she says. "Lasting peace for everyone on this planet, but certain seems to enjoy conflict and an unending war. I'm worried he's trying to destroy us all." Valeska purses her tusked lips, trying to read the man's expression. "I know I sound ungrateful. I'm not suggesting mutiny. I just hope to maintain what certain has done." Ellen leans close. "If you knew what we've done for you, you'd watch your tongue. You lived in fear of the so-called gods above you, and we've given you freedom." The skeleton lifts her chin, looking the man's agent in the eyes. "Yes, and that will be your downfall, too. Once you broke our chains, we're not quick to put them on again. I'm nearly 80. That's considered young for my tribe. My people have seen hard winters and long summers. Often we don't know if our people were going to survive the oppression from above, but we did. We were made strong. unbreakable. 7. Captain Sparrow stands at the window of his office looking over the prison city. He wants this season to be more successful than any other previous year, but the inmates were acting strangely. Generally, they could provoke the rival gangs into a skirmish to raise ratings, but so far they've been quiet, aggravatingly peaceful. They may have to release psychedelics in their water and trigger their psychological programming. It surprised Connie that so many people she thought of as enemies were now friends. When an otter with no connection to the Furbtech appears in her gang's hideout telling her she was quantumly connected to the center of the universe, she laughed. If you're from a powerful government and I'm so important, why'd they let me go through everything I did? The torture, the reconstructions, why didn't they stop it? If what you're saying is true, I'm better here with my gang than your weak organization. The door is kicked open and Neath guards enter with food. We want you eat. Not long after they ate, Sebastian became aware of the agent who was lurking in his mind. You must bring her in, Griffin says. I wish I was there. We can't fail. I want you to go, Connie says, squinting. They're signaling the start of a riot. Jermaine enters, saying, Arm yourselves. We're winning back our freedom. Although they'd been enemies, everyone jumps to their feet, grabbing their Furbtechs. Connie looks at Sebastian. I'm sorry you're going to get caught in the middle of this. Even if it kills us, Ehrlich says, heading out, we're bringing the city to its knees. Inmates pour out of the buildings, clogging the streets, and Captain Sparrow knew there was a problem. He held off on alerting the guards to see what they would do. His higher-ups didn't like to use footage of guard violence as much as gang fights. The Neath captain rubs his hands together excitedly. Finally, it was happening. He'd never seen all the gangs come out at once in the open, and he imagined his promotion. But they didn't fight. They marched toward his office like they wanted his head. Sparrow alerts his guards with a button, knowing he'll be safe from the inmates. The guards do exactly the opposite of what the captain wants. His panic rises. Instead of beating down the inmates, they take something from them, joining them. He couldn't believe his eyes. Both the guards and the inmates were moving as one. More joined their ranks from all over. He'd never seen anything like it, but he knew it didn't bode well for him, and he ducked into a pocket dimension for protection. Ehrlich felt his universe collapse around him as more and more minds linked together. Connie gets a deeper perspective of herself and the world through the eyes of the guards and inmates, and she begins to see that in a way the whole thing was her fault. Jermaine becomes the voice of the group. We want Sparrow, she says. Kaplan pulls out a device. We'll have to unplug them to get this extraction. Griffin speaks through Sebastian's mouth. The girl is our only way in. If we unplug them, there's going to be a lot of blood spilled. It's a risk we'll have to take. In his pocket dimension, Sparrow speaks to his masters. Season's about to get good. How many of you have been broken and rebuilt, Connie yells. How many of you repeatedly destroyed people for no reason? They used you to be cruel, and you never wanted that. I want to be sure we make the people in charge pay for what they do to us. You have to help, she says to Sebastian, holding a Furbtech out to him. If you expect me to go with you, you'll need to get your government to help us get revenge. He struggles to resist the owl-like hamster's cuteness. Join us, Connie says. The Dark Lord speaks to Sparrow from the shadows of his pocket dimension. This is the best thing to ever happen to us. You're going to surrender to them, integrate yourself into their minds, and leave the collective for us and our purposes. The captain of the Neath Guard shudders internally but says nothing, afraid to contradict his masters. We are extending the show to every corner of the known and unknown universes. 8. Despite being one new arrival on Yetzeral, the gang leaders and Neath Guards looked to Connie for direction. They could sense she clearly knew what she wanted. She worried that the evil they did would keep happening if she didn't stop it. She stormed the Neath headquarters, handing Furbtechs to everyone. The guards immediately joined her, opening the security doors that led deeper into the building. Jermaine discovers Sparrow's pocket dimension, handing him a Furbtech. The dark being who controlled the Neath captain unleashed themselves into the mind link. The rampage pauses, everyone's eyes going black. Connie stops dead in her tracks. The only thought resonating in her head was, spread out into all the worlds. Suddenly, every concern she had slipped away. Her desire for revenge was supplanted with a feeling of euphoria and purpose. What the guards had been doing for them now made perfect sense. They were here to entertain, and she was excited to be a part of it. 9. Freshly showered, Terrence sits in Sarah Kay's office discussing his away mission with Pamela. The project breached containment. We did everything to slow it down, but I don't know if we've had any effect. I don't want my friend's death to be in vain. We haven't found a way to stop the device's spread or the breach project, and I know you're not going to like this plan, but we're going to use it to capture certain. Terrence quietly mulls over the news. It's suicide. If it gets us, we'll have no defense against it. But we're only going to be able to recognize him if we're in his head. It'll change everything. We're no longer operating an agency that covertly pulls strings on separate worlds. We're about to come into the spotlight as the homogenous culture we're trying to control. We're giving everything to the firm tech. Sarkay laces her fingers over her stomach. I don't want this getting around since it'll be controversial, but I think giving up control is going to be the best for everyone. Her agent can't believe his ears. You think we should give up our autonomy? I do. I've been watching the unity the FERBTech brings, and we could have that. Years of undercover experience helped Terrence keep his emotions from his face, panic and rage rising inside him. He didn't want his supervisor to know he wasn't down for being one of the last free-thinking people in history, but he kept that to himself. He couldn't understand Sergei's fascination with the device, but he knew it wasn't healthy. He needed to find a way to break the entire system if he was going to survive. The CIB director leans in, looking the agent in the eye. Do not cross me, Terrence. I've looked at it from every angle, and I figured out the best course for every reality. Terrence nods, standing to adjust his suit. Of course, ma'am. You know what's best. He kept his expression neutral as he left his office, his mind racing. What had gotten into her? Why was she acting so contrary to everything the Bureau stood for? 10. 5A_K0N knew that what she had to tell the Emperor wasn't going to go over well, but he had to know. This new world was dying. She couldn't explain it, but from every angle she examined it, economically, biologically, or otherwise, it was undeniable. CAK_BRD nods. I've seen you monitoring the situation, and I admire your concern. You haven't noticed. It's you. Drawing energy from the world to power our mind link. Our No1L_KANs aren't able to keep up, and you wanted to help, so you did. You've probably seen the M1C_HAL unit's efforts, the Emperor continues. He tracked down our 2 rogue units into the desert and discovered an infinitely long hallway that takes up no space on our current planet. He smiles, like a cat about to make a feast on a house of mice. I've sent him and he discovered millions of other worlds. Immediately, 5A_K0N sends units after the M1C_HAL, hungry for dominance. The query comes across the mind link from the No1L_KAN units. Warning, withdraw. We've gone far beyond maximum capacity and we cannot support expansion. Another voice chimed in, a newer member who was born and raised on Trephinate. We have the technology to amplify the power from this world as long as we route the signal through 5A_K0N. She's the only one strong enough to contain the energy. The No1L_KANs laugh as the units migrate. You're just speaking up now? After 0.028 microseconds, they speak. We've examined your plan. It will kill us. That would be true since we're outside the microcosm. Chaotic elements are much greater out here. That's why you're unable to process everything that is happening to us, but 5A_K0N is connected to something else. The quanta runs through her. Sir, we want you to do something the No1L_KAN demands of the Emperor. We successfully expanded beyond containment. We should focus on salvaging this world. Through the mind link, 5A_K0N sees the hallway. There's always more for us. Several No1L_KANs try to physically block the units trying to open the doors along the hallway. You're being too rash, Emperor. Stop her. She'll bring catastrophic failure to the entire mind link. Everything you've gained here will be completely destroyed. CAK_BRD says nothing, and the units follow M1C HAL into the first open doorway. With no data loss or energy spikes, O1L_KAN says, our calculations were wrong. Through his unit, CAK_BRD sees Sneersbury, a highly technological metropolis for the first time. I want it yesterday, he says. Begin the eyepiece distribution. He looked at 5A_K0N, and he couldn't see her struggling. More clearly than before, he could see through the mind link the great power coursing through her. It was as if she was grasping at the fabric of reality itself and twisting it to her own desires. 11. Terrence didn't want to disobey a direct order, but he knew if he could find Certain and eraser him, it might be possible for him to stop the FERBTech from being released. He sensed Certain was on D-Long,
since a worldwide power structure being overturned was suspicious. However, when he arrived there, the Illic was gone and the Furbtech were everywhere. He knew he couldn't stay long, or they would force one on him. From inside his transversor, Terrence scans the planet's surface for days without sleeping, tracking Certain's quantum trail off-world in hopes of stopping the cancer. His sleepless nights paid off when he found a signal coming from the door to the Phoenix Club. Terrence's heart sank. If the Illic made it to the hotel, he could be anywhere. Certain is in the hotel lobby talking to a metallic humanoid from Ben G. I need safe passage to your world. In exchange, I will bring your planet to prominence among the League of Planets. You won't have to beg anymore, but we need to move now. Quickly. When Terrence arrives in the Phoenix Club, Certain is gone and no one remembers him. But the Illic's trail was clear. He had to follow, even if it meant his death. 12. Tetraserini was eventually made Duke under the Empress. It's not that he wanted to be in charge per se, but everyone else eventually got killed, so that he was what was left. He was instantly summoned into her presence without any notice or understanding of why. They've entered our world, pet, and are absorbing our people into themselves. The dingo nods sympathetically, keeping his thoughts neutral to cover his joy. This was his opportunity. He could feel it. She was being overthrown. He was free. The authority of the Empress caused Tetraserini to be feared in his own dukedom. It was hard to contain the excitement he felt for his citizens throwing her yoke off as well. Honestly, he was scared too. He'd been here so long he forgot who he used to be. Savania seemed so far away now, and though it was banal, he longed to be back there. On the pretense that he wanted to rally citizens on the Empress's behalf, Tetraserini left. He knows for the first time in a long time she was too distracted to notice him. Although Pro 2 killed previous dukes, he knew he could overpower her. In a flash, Tetraserini poured flames into the Empress's mind, followed by screaming skulls, using all the time she spent in his mind to his advantage, filling every nook and cranny. Pro 2's agonizing scream was heard by every being across the planet. After everything, the mental torture, disgrace, the dingo stood tall again, knowing it could have been him. She'd almost broken him. He wasn't sure how he'd survived. 13. Sebastian stumbles as he runs with Connie, wanting to get her away from the city. She was coming out of the mind control slowly, the Furbtech taking a few shocks from Kaplan's device before it releases hold. The first thing she sees is the Neath guards absolutely slaughtering the prison gang she helped bring together. She didn't know why she had high hopes. She'd been making a lot of foolish decisions. It wasn't her, though. It was the thing that had possessed her. It did this. Connie's desire for revenge kept her moving. It caused this. She'd make it pay. Even while the Furbtech loosened its grip on her, she could see and feel the death of her companions. While they still had a connection, she whispered into their minds that their deaths were not in vain, and she would be sure that they were not forgotten. Evil would not go unpunished, and she would be the one to avenge them all. The otter's feet slip in blood, and Connie keeps him from falling to the pavement.
End of Chapter 6. Thank you for listening to this audio presentation of She Came From Nowhere, a series novelization written and performed by Caleb Morazi. If you'd like to read more of this book, read chapters from the series, listen to audio, and further support the development of this project, please go to patreon.com/SheCameFromNowhere, link in the description. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. Until next time, we'll see you soon.